Welcome back to the channel. It's been a bit since I've posted because it's been a busy and hot August. I'm doing better now, and as I hope you are as well. Also, I've been out of town for a little bit, but fortunately I was able to carry my companion with me and start each day with a cup of coffee like this. What we have in store this time is this all-leather recliner by Hancock & Moore, picked up from an estate sale. We see some transfer of the finish here on the bottom seat cushion. The customer was concerned with this headrest as well. And you can see on the arm this rotted armrest. So it's pretty severe damage here and here. And so this is going to be interesting to see how we can remedy this extreme damage in a quick and easy way. Let's get to work.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And so, as usual, we're going to use the degreaser and a scuff pad. I could just say that I cleaned it and prepped, but if I didn't show it, you wouldn't remember it. It's so important that we're just going to show here the overall cleaning and prep. We move as fast as we can here to get better energy transfer. Anyway, if we work really fast, we'll get the better job done anyway. Now is the prep step with 99% isopropanol. That will get all the rest of the residue from the cleaner. So on this part where the leather appears to be rotted, at least the finish here appears to be, it's all cracked up. I'm using sand away again as we have previously, and 100 grit sandpaper. What I want to do is remove all of the finish over top of this damage. And what that's going to do for me is expose all of these leather fibers. If we're going to fix the leather, we need all the fibers exposed. That way we can get maximum penetration of our primer. And that's what we're going to talk about at length too, is how we can use primer to great effect here. This cleanup is with acetone, and this will help expedite the drying out of our surface as well. We'll do the same for the arm. So we're going to try to remove all the existing finish here and get down to the raw leather. Now, some might object to using solvents on leather, thinking that it'll leach out all of the oils that are in the leather, but bear in mind, this is rotted leather here. So extreme circumstances call for extreme measures. This is the reality versus wishful thinking, right? I'm also going to sand here to try to remove as much surface buildup as I can. So the good leather that's left is rather white looking now, but we see this dark spot. There's still a bit of gunk built up there. So we'll have to address that. I don't have the same problem here on the headrest, but once this area is dried out here, where we remove the existing finish, we are going to sand here with 220 and then 400. That way I get down to a nice clean surface to work on, and all these fibers are exposed. They're also dried out now too, which enables me to sand better. And it's those dried exposed fibers that we hope to get some penetration into. Hopefully the fibers will absorb our primer step. Prior to the primer, however, I had some newer degreaser in, and I wanted to see if it had any effect on these darker areas. It's actually an alcohol-based degreaser. And of course, I've already prepped. And this doesn't really seem to have that much effect. I was willing to give it a try, but not really impressed. I'm going to try it again here. Rinse and repeat on this area. So it didn't really make so much of a difference here, but that's okay. We'll let that dry out and we'll revisit this in a little bit. The best success I had here with the arm is to take a brass brush and separate all these fibers where the gunk was built up. Trying not to dig too deeply there. I followed up here with the scuff pad, just like you would do on some suede leather, where we use the scuff pad and alcohol to restore it. And at this point, we want to make sure that we learn from failures of others in the past, where we had a rough steering leather here, and they put a filler on it because you can't really sand the rough leather smooth. It's suede, and the more you sand, the more it's suede. So it's better to anchor these leather fibers down with a primer, and then the primer can be sanded, and that's how you fix it. For example, we had this Subaru in a past video where we sanded all the garbage off with 100 grit sandpaper, and it made the entire steering wheel suede. We used plastic primer to anchor the fibers down. Now it's sandable to a smooth finish, no fillers required. We're going to apply what we learned in the past to this arm on this couch. So I'm using a plastic primer. It acts as an aniline penetrating base. And these fibers in the leather are dried at this point, and they're sucking up, absorbing all of this plastic primer as possible. Now you might say, yes, but Rick, the plastic primer you say is brittle. And I always mention that so we don't get confused about where to use it. But we're adding a flex additive to it as well. And the holding power of this flexible primer is second to none. It miraculously fixed all of that headrest. What happened is all the fibers swelled up and bonded to one another, and then when I looked back, there was no repairs to be done. the primer itself healed the leather. That is pretty neat. And that's how we come up with new ideas in the field. Trial and error. We try, we evaluate, we try, we modify, we try and fail. We try and persevere, though, and keep trying to create. We question and we answer. We question again and again. So here I've elected on the arm to use a second application of primer. I had sanded on a little bit, and now that this second application of primer is dried, it's going to let me smooth out that surface just a little bit more. So these new ideas really help. They allow us to do the repairs quicker and more efficiently. And the goal is, when you have a job you lament doing, you turn it into one that you look forward to. So here, the 220 grit and then 400. So the structural component of our repairs, both on the arm and on the headrest, are done. And now we're ready for surfacing with an air dry filler. We want a smooth surface, textured perhaps a little bit, and this is a latex-based filler. I want a very thin layer of filler. That's why I'm using the Bondo spreader. I'm actually scraping out quite a bit, leaving a little bit behind. And then I'm feathering this with a little bit of my first spray red. This is the first color red that I'll be spraying, and it's got crosslinker in it. So, as you notice, there's going to be no need to sand our fillers here. I know people are still teaching to sand the air dry fillers, but they're not going to be cured until tomorrow, if that, and not fully cured until a week. So I'm able to feather it, and we'll do that again here. Again, the primer on this was dry. It fixed everything on the leather by itself, which is a miracle. 220 and 400 just to smooth it down. I'm going to also surface this with some filler and the cross-linked color. Now the color that I picked up here was the first spray color, which is red. And I want you to pay attention here because we do feather with the red, but notice the red, of course, being translucent, is not hiding the repair at all. This is good to see. By the way, you notice that I wipe to feather, and then I get more color, and then dab. And that dabbing is to erase any lines I put in it while spreading it out. And there you are. Notice that the original base of this leather is a burnt orange, basically the same as the red oxide. In fact, I tell my students to quit calling it red, call it a burnt orange. But this illustrates how red oxide can be used to hide the repairs on red furniture. It's opaque, but the red pigment is translucent. So it's good you can see the difference. In fact, we're going to put one more thin layer of our filler, which is a latex-based filler. But this time we're going to use the red oxide. Using the red oxide to feather it. And all of our colors, by the way, are made with a high gloss binder for maximum intensity of color. There is no flattener involved then to diminish the intensity of any of these colors. Again, wiping to feather the filler and then dabbing with some fresh color to erase any of the lines from having spread it. Also puts a little bit of texture. Also, each color has added flex additive, of course, and cross-linker. Now that our filler has cured overnight, should we sand it now? No! Still not sanding our filler. Why? Well, we can melt the surface with our 99% isopropanol. Just melt it, it's nice and smooth, no problem. The other advantage of this, it creates a tacky surface for our next color step, our wipe-in color step. Don't you just like not having to sand your repair materials? So what I've decided to do is wipe in our base color here over the entire panel. That way we'll have uniformity underneath our two spray colors. Prep on the arm too, on day 2. It's tacky now, and we can add our base color and feather that around. We're ready now for the spray color on these two repair areas. This is spray color number 1, not a full wet coat. This is the red color we showed you first. Remember, we're duplicating what is a 3-color print here. And you'll see as I'm spraying, I'm pulsing the trigger. It's not a full wet coat, just pulsing so that we get a random print. And this color is made from the true red plus purple to give it a darker value. Now it's time for color number 2. We don't want to overdo it. We can come back later as needed. Again, I'm pulsing the trigger here just to put a print of our darker color. This darker color is color number 1 plus a little bit of black. So if I refer to it as the black color, it's not totally black, it's red with some black added. Not overdoing the print here. I am going to come back and reassess all of this. Of course, it'll dry down a little darker. For example, look at the panel in the foreground as we work, and we can get a view as to how that print might go on there. Color number 1 on the headrest. The reason these colors darken as they dry, the binder might have just a little bit of whiteness to it, but it will dry crystal clear. The objective here is a phenomenon that when we're finished, the chair will appear to be a very dark red, but we can't make red that dark. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is that at a distance, our eye will see both the red and the black together and will interpret that as that impossibly dark red target. We'll get the combination of the two. Ready for color number 2, that is spray color number 2. I have spray 1 and spray 2 labeled on the cup. Of course, the base color was a wipe-in. That can be a solid color. And the others go on sprayed because that's the print. Now it's time to compare what we've done to the rest of the chair. Looks pretty good, but some of the other parts of the chair that we didn't work on are also lighter. some of the dark print has been worn off. So even though they didn't need repaired, still they're going to need to be brought up to speed in order for the entire chair to look uniform. Look at the difference here. So we got to pick that up a little bit. Now at the end of day one, I did spray color on the inside of the arms so that we'd have maximum cure time here. I didn't take any pains as far as how it looked. This is where the seat cushion is going to go, but if it's cured ahead of time pretty good, then it's not going to stick again like it did apparently a long time ago. So I'm just looking at these areas that are light and making plans to put the two colors in there. We're going to do a fresh prep, of course, even though we've already cleaned and prepped. Remember that this alcohol prep step will make the surface tacky. It'll open up the surface and we'll get really good adhesion on our spray color number 1. I've got a little white spot here. We'll put several coats and see if we can hide that while we have color number 1 in the gun. Now on to color number 2. Pulsing it on there. I really like how it's balancing this color to the rest of the chair. Look at that light spot over there. There we go. You didn't forget about our friend the bottom cushion, did you? So we've got some black spots here. And remember, with the translucent red, those spots would be dark forever. So we're going back to our red oxide, burnt orange if you will. A fresh prep, and then as a rule, now to get these spots up to speed with the rest of the cushion, we're just localizing our spray, we're dialing our pattern down, getting them up to speed, and then we can do the overall with our color number 1. Again, when I say overall, it's still pulsing. Spray color number 2. Going for the print effect. We're not going to spend too much time on the cushion. Just bringing it up to speed a little bit color-wise so it blends with the rest of the chair. Did you notice the facing of the arms is worn a little bit light as well? Now sometimes I mask the furniture nails, as you know. This time decided not to though, but I have the spray pattern on the gun turned down to a pencil point. That way there won't be much overspray. Any overspray will be about the same as any blow-by around the masking anyway. So it's just use your judgment. If masking is going to take more time than cleaning up, sometimes that's the case. I don't want to be too dogmatic. Now this is a good practice. Before the final color coat and before the clear coat, lightly sand all the repair areas because there could be some trash or nibs. In this case, I'm using 1000 grit because it doesn't white the surface at all like 400 might. But if there are any nibs that are going to rub off, let them rub off now better than when the customer gets it, right? This is my final number 2 spray print. This is the black enhanced color. And now it's time for the overall with the clear. The clear has flex, slip, cross linker, and a little bit of thinner resin to help it flow just a little bit more. I figured I'd touch up these spots. The problem is I picked color number 2 and it's a bit too dark. So reaching back for spray color number 1 just to ease those spots a little bit, and I'll check back with them a little later, but we don't want white spots. Of course, I'm isolating these panels so we don't get overspray on the already finished ones. Again, spotting just a little bit more of the number 2, the black, and then a clear coat. Just a little bit of work to clean up. Watch the slip additive at work here. Slip right in. What a nice, rich color. The customer is going to be ecstatic. Let's take a closer look. This print looks good. I like what it's doing. Color matches up really nicely. I like that. Here's the arm we repaired. The finish looks about the same as the rest of it. So nice job for a slight bit of texture on the arm. I like to also look at the side where I haven't worked, and I can see the blacker print with the both lighter colors peeking out from underneath. That's nice. Now I know you're all curious about the headrest, how that primer and those fillers worked. Well, there we go. What's not to like? A tough repair made easy. Well, there's a lot of helpful tips in this video. Thanks for hanging in there through it all, and we'll see you next time.